People have to stop legitimizing this couple because there is a fire burning in this girl's house. And she trying to talk to people about preventing fires. Like, we don't want to listen to you talk about fire prevention when there's a fire happening in your house. Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to my channel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you are doing wonderful today. So I think how I'm going to do what I am venturing in doing with this whole thing around the American royal baby. And of course, there are other things. There have been these Lifetime movies that have come out that are showing reenactments that are fictional, but giving us a glimpse into what it could have been like behind the royal walls with our famous couple. And I start to piece together just so much that is going on. And I see how we are a part of one of the biggest cons of the century. Now, of course, my opinion, right? I'm just giving you things that are just coming to my head as I'm looking and reading and watching and like, oh, wow. Yeah, like all these light bulbs are going off in my head. And I think why these light bulbs are going off in my head, because I am really observant to things that I can envision myself doing, or things that I have done before. But then I see how it's done with people who have a platform, people who have lots of money, people who have power, people who know people that have power. The way they go about doing it is so much more on the level of Cadillac. It's like you got the Cadillac version of what myself and others are trying to do. And so going to this whole American royal baby and all these Lifetime movies. So like I said in my last video, their PR essentially is like what Lady C says is the propaganda of the Minister of Propaganda, Goebbels and Omid, and the things that Lady C says. It is so true. It's so true, you guys, because they have what is needed to really implant in the minds of people a narrative that can be completely opposite of what the reality is. Completely opposite. Goebbels and, the Minister of Propaganda, we know that this was a job for the regime at that time to take stories and to take pictures and to use the media and to use different visual impressions of things to create a narrative. But we knew we know now, but all the while watching these narratives about the great, perfect German and the perfect this and government and all of this, we knew, or we know now, the reality of what was happening behind the scenes. We knew that there were a lot of horrible, horrible atrocities happening behind the pictures, behind the propaganda. And ladies and gentlemen, that is what we are seeing today. Yeah, it is. Because this is a journey that I've been on since I saw that white dress. Thinking, something wrong. Something is wrong. We don't do that. That's perpetrating. Okay, but anyway. Gotta stay on task here. Squirrel, squirrel, like, it's just crazy how I just am like, in my mind, I have a million projects going on in my head right now, but I'm only trying to like let just like one come out and stream all the way through to the end. So I'm gonna try to be on task here. So forgive me if I go off, but that's just the anxieties of life. Okay, so as I'm on this journey, and I'm seeing these mistakes and these teachable moments where, well, you should have done this. Well, you shouldn't have done that. And why did you do this? Like questioning things and trying to really understand in the beginning, like what is going on? And then slowly we start to see it start to stream together. You know, some of the things that we've heard from like people like Piers Morgan come out and say social climber and, you know, using people. Liz Conde saying a girl was just dropped me. Like she didn't want to talk to me ever again. Just like no more. And so we're starting to see patterns, you know. And now as we see with the marriage and the whole leaving the royal family, like the plans of this woman are slowly being revealed to us. And as they are being revealed to us, we are seeing what the plan was then. And we can kind of picture where the plan is going now and next. I mean, we don't have all the behind the scenes information, but we have enough in the news and from sources to understand, okay, what this woman is doing is clearly a situation of somebody on a mission to create something that is not going to fare well and has not fared well for some people and in her life and within her and her husband's orbit. So I'm looking at the things like this American Royal Baby now and these Lifetime movies and the news stories. And this is the one thing I want you guys to really always try to be aware of, because I know it can get very hard and tricky when you think, oh, nobody falling for that nonsense, you know, because we're all in our own bathtub water. Like we're swimming in our own water, and we don't see the clean bath water or somebody else's dirty bath water. We don't see that. We just see our own bath water because we're all like-minded and we understand people are not falling for this. I can't believe she did that. And the queen this and the queen stripped the titles. Like we can all kind of agree that we can see what is happening. But there are things that are happening while we're all talking amongst ourselves about things that we all agree on. There are things happening around us that we're not seeing sometimes. And this is why I mentioned it in my last video, how, you know, we are not seeing a demographic of people who are very pro this couple. And then you have things like the companies like P&G and Time 100. I was just watching this tech talk that she did with her husband and how they're trying to get rid of bad, you know, abusive language and abusive talk and things on social media and all these platforms. Like they're being legitimized by these companies. And they're doing all these things to, you know, writing a book, appearing on James Corden and, you know, reading books and having it for a major network. I can't remember who Harry read that book for, but like getting on these legitimate platforms with their deals with Netflix and Spotify, like trying to legitimize the things that they're doing. This is all a part of the propaganda. This is all a part of the things that, you know, they're doing to make their money and to also have people look at them as legitimate leaders in the respective fields in which they are speaking about. And we can get lost. People can get lost in this and not really understand, well, what is really going on behind the scenes, because this is how it always is anywhere in life. When you see something bad happen to a young kid, you wonder, well, what went wrong with that kid? Like, what kind of environment did they grow up in? What happened? Everything we do starts in the home. It starts with how we're brought up, how we're raised, the people we allow to come into our lives who have influenced us, the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And, you know, all of these things all go back to the home. It all starts there. It all starts there. So while we're seeing this propaganda, and the propaganda, mind you, is trying to, that's a whole nother story about the actual message of the propaganda. But I'll get to that. As we're seeing the propaganda, we look at the fact that Meghan has essentially gotten rid of relationships with people along the way as she's climbed higher and higher and up that ladder that metaphoric ladder that I've always spoke about since I started my channel. Like, she's climbing and she's climbing and she's looking down and, you know, thank you, and like knocking them down, and she's keeping on climbing. Well, she started doing these things at home. Oh, here's my Mr. Otis. He hears me talking. Otis? Wow. Okay. Say hi, Mr. Otis. Say hi. Okay. So we see that there is a bunch of information that is happening behind the scenes. A lot of things, there's a lot of stories coming out, the behaviors, the bullying allegations. We're hearing now about what really happened with Megxit, and that William kicked them out of Kensington, their offices, because of how she was treating the staff. So we can see that they're bad actors. And then the lies that were told during the Oprah Winfrey interview. And then the division that has been caused, or the divisiveness that has been caused within their own families, especially with Harry's family, calling them racist, doing all these things. So we can see that they are doing things behind the scenes that most people aren't really paying attention to. They're mostly paying attention to the propaganda, most people. You can't feed us this propaganda. You can't try to tell us that people need to show compassion when you can't show compassion to the loved ones in your own life. Or to try to have us believe that you are a humanitarian when you can't even show basic love and respect to the people that were in your life as a child. So this is what's happening. These are the pieces of this whole thing that I'm talking about, putting together all of this information and trying to also create this American royalty as this goal of superiority, while feeding us the propaganda, and also while we see what is going on behind the scenes that make us see and know you're perpetrating with all the things that you're trying to feed us with your propaganda, because it is propaganda. And it's so much information, and I'm afraid that I'm going to deviate from trying to get my information set in a way that is congestible. It's like I don't want to feed the whole elephant at once. It's like we got to take small little nippets and bites of this. Because it really is a big scheme and a scam that to me, I look at it and I'm like, you wrong. You are what? And it boggles my mind that some people can't see it, but I can see why they can't see it, because they're just letting them see the propaganda. But what we need to do is we need to always be cognizant of the people that are falling for the propaganda. Because there are people that are falling for it. So I'm going to give you another enlightenment to some of this propaganda that they're giving us. So in this Times 100 talking about this technology, she's speaking with Alexis Ohanian, and Meghan is like, you know, she's very like, yes, and the technology and the people and that are very not nice, and they're being mean and nasty and all of these things, and you know, we've got to do something, you know. And Alexis at the same time, he's speaking very well and very articulate about, you know, finding a company and doing all these things, and you know, there's no diversity and all of that, and he's very, you know, I'm feeling what he's saying. But then I look at this girl perpetrating and trying to be all intellectual and talking about, you know, giving her input to something. I'm like, well, who are you? Right? The people that, going to the example now, the people that are her fans, they are some of the nastiest, mean, just unbelievably disgusting behavior that are the fans, the sugars they call them, of this woman. But she gonna be talking about showing compassion and better space for having people, you know, in social media because it's affecting people's mental health. Well, you gotta start at home. Start at home with the people that are your fans and call them out, because I know she know. So it's like going back to what I was saying in the very beginning. All of this starts in the home. And until you get your home right, you ain't got no business being out here on these platforms of propaganda telling us folk what the issues are of the people of the world today. Like, we don't want to hear you. We don't want to hear nothing you gotta say. Nothing. Because we know what's going on behind the scenes. We know how she treats her family. We know how she's been accused of social climbing by very legitimate and credible people that have associated with her. We know about the bullying allegations that have been confirmed, that are being investigated by the royal family right now. Like, there are things that we are seeing, and then we step into these other platforms of the propaganda and we look and we're like, I cannot believe this girl has the audacity to actually sit here and speak about this. Like, people have to stop legitimizing this couple, because there is a fire burning in this girl's house. There is a fire burning. And she trying to talk to people about preventing fires. Like, we don't want to listen to you talk about fire prevention when there's a fire happening in your house. You see? And this is what is coming into play for me. This is what I'm seeing. And this is why it's so important to understand what is going on in other people's bathwater. Like, what is happening out there? What are other people seeing and saying? Because it might be more people than you think. It might be more people than you think, because how are they still getting these deals? How are they still being legitimized by these companies? Now, I could be completely wrong, and I hope that I am wrong. But at the same time, I don't want to mislead myself into think that oh, people won't know how they are. People know what's going on with this couple. They're not going to fall for it. I cannot think that this is just the way I'm seeing it. I have to assume otherwise. I have to assume that just perhaps they are making this traction and people are following. Like, for example, I had a lady, a painter, she was painting my home and she was asking me about this couple and asking me all these questions because she likes Meghan Markle, and she's like, well, what's the problem with them? And so I start to tell her about all these things, and then she's like, oh, she's like, really? I'm like, yeah, really. And she is enlightened to this new information. But some people are never going to hear this information because what they do, they stick with their own, that the like-minded people, and they only hear the things that they want to hear. They are only in their own bathwater. You see what I'm saying? So as I try to navigate through this information to really pinpoint it, it has to be pinpointed in a way that relates it to something that is in the other people's realm of thinking. So for example, if I talk about, let me see, one of the things on this show. Okay, so here's one. So we take a situation that happened, the propaganda that we saw, because we know there's a difference. Okay, so when they did the interview in the very beginning, that in the interview when they were engaged, Meghan said that she had not researched her husband, her future husband, Harry. She never researched him. Everything she wanted to know, she just asked him, you know, she just asked him. Now, we all know, most people will say, nuh-uh, you lying. For real, for real, for real. Nope, don't believe it. But she said that she didn't research her husband, the propaganda. But if you knew the story about the friend that she grew up with, who definitely said that she was very much a big fan of the royal family as a child, and that she wanted to be Princess Diana 2.0, and that she is friends, or she knows Eugenie, and Eugenie is the first cousin to Harry. But you don't know that Eugenie's in the royal family and that she's the first cousin of Prince Harry, when these are globally famous people. Like, they're not just known in the UK. Like, we know, we have a gist of who these people are here in America. So the propaganda was fed to us that she never researched her husband. But the reality is something completely different. So like bringing those pieces together is what is important. And then also taking information like what she's talking about here on this times 100, the propaganda being talking to us about technology and how we need to make it safer for people. We need to help protect people in their mental health because of all of the bullying allegation or bullying that goes on online, and how there's not much diversity in companies, and like they're drawing all these things from technology being improved with different things. Okay, but behind the scenes, we know that she's under investigation for bullying herself. But she gonna talk in this platform, propaganda platform, about people being nice online and social media. Well, she can't even be nice in person to people. Like, you really taking it to the next step if you're gonna be mean to people face to face. At least when you being mean to someone online, like, you got it at a distance. Like, they don't know your name, they don't know anything about you. But when people like know who you are, and you're being mean and bullying and doing mean things to them in their face, that's pretty detrimental to that person. Not only that, but like, that's their job, that's their livelihood. You're their boss and you're being mean to them. So we have got a situation here that, for me, is the biggest con job of the century. And we're gonna talk about it. All right, peace and love. Bye bye.